Zoom out that radar a little bit, that it has a tornado warning storm on it. See, there's two obvious rain shafts right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. See on the bottom right there. Awesome, JD. See on the bottom, there's a couple of spots that have a little bit darker red. So right there, the sun's getting a low enough angle that we're really starting to see these rain shafts really kind of stand out. And what we're looking at, this is you're looking at the runway midway, and think of midway as like an X with the runways, and the runway that we're looking off going from right to left, close to us, far away, right to left, that's basically pointed up to the northwest. So this camera is almost just about due north. So you're looking at the two cells, the two heavy rain parts of the tornado warned storm, the southern part of the tornado warned storm.
Yeah.
And you can really see that. So we're looking up to the north, and you can really see the obvious rain shafts there.
Yeah, we can pull up the radar and show you that. So Chris, what I think you're seeing is this and this.
Yeah.
Those two spots, those little notches on the south end of the tornado warning.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking that is. And then maybe a little bit, there might be another third one off to the left.
That's this coming in right there.
Yes, yeah, perhaps that.
So yeah, I mean, this southern part of this storm looks to be the most intense right now, and may even be showing signs of strengthening as it now closes in on Chicago. Looks like it's going to kind of deviate from downtown just slightly from some of the heaviest of rain, kind of missing the downtown loop, the Chicago River, Navy Pier, some of the popular areas that you may be familiar with Chicago. But the area of rotation is not going to be in the heaviest rain. It's going to be right there. So we got to watch that as that kind of comes in near Wrigley Field and also towards Navy Pier and Magnificent Mile. So we're zooming in hyper local right there, kind of giving you an idea of, okay, so that we were just resetting the radar right there. Still tornado warning if you're just joining us here for Chicago proper, including much of Cook County, although a lot of this is now out of the threat zone back over towards O'Hare, and then Evanston now. Those storms have already come through. They're pushing offshore, so we've really got to watch North Chicago and then down through downtown and then pushing south of the city for that biggest threat. This is now the only tornado warning that we are following. No other warnings have been issued, so things are showing signs of improvement. And
so I just might want to mention that if you're not in the tornado warning,
these cells over
but if
here,
you're just south of the tornado warning, you may want to consider seeking shelter like a tornado warning. I wouldn't be surprised if we get an extension farther south. I'm starting to see some rotation developing south of Cicero over towards Stickney into the Forest View area. Maybe not tight enough to quite pull the trigger on a tornado warning on it, but it definitely looks like there is some rotation that is just south of where we have the warning right now. And that's kind of building back. And JD, if you expand the view a little bit broader, notice the storms that were up towards Evanston. They're offshore now.
Yeah, they're offshore.
So before, this whole line was pretty much parallel, moving due east. And now we've kind of seen this line evolve. We see it kind of lingering back on the tail end. Sometimes we'll call these little tail end Charlies, right? If you kind of get a little line developing. And a lot of times you can get rotation on the tail ends of some of these also. So I would not sleep on those storms south of Downers Grove or just south of where we have that warning in that area. Those could be intensifying and beginning to rotate with time. So that would be the next area I think we need to be potentially concerned about.
So I'd like to maybe take a couple cameras here from downtown Chicago, because they've struck the warning again. So some of the worst of these storms in the tornado warned zone that we were tracking are now coming in close to the downtown city center. So let's see if we can see anything visually. Maybe take rim 3, because that's now looking towards that storm, and this is looking between the two. So you got the area of rotation there on the north, so that's on the north end, and then you got the heavy rain shield coming in from the west. So in between, you got this little gap where the sun's kind of peeking through and kind of illuminating the horizon. So heavy rain starting to kind of approach us here. Dalton, if you can't, or I keep calling you Dalton, forgive me.
JD's with us tonight.
You have a D.
Dalton's on vacation.
Yes.
Good for you, Dalton.
JD, if you can, switch to velocity. I just want to see if anything's kind of ringing up. So not anything super notable from the velocity. We've had a hard time seeing a lot of these cells, though. on some of the radars because of the interference with some of the several airports nearby and a lot of different radars in close proximity. But there is some rotation. Winds moving away from and towards the radar. I don't think we have a tornado on the ground right now, although we are under a tornado warning because at any minute this could tighten up really quickly. And these things, can evolve in just under a minute. I mean, it happens quickly. So that's why they want everyone to be prepared, especially when you're talking about well over nearly 1 million people right there in that small little tornado warning in downtown Chicago.
Yeah, that's really the best area of rotation that we got going on right now, right there on the northwest side. And that interesting how this has evolved so much and where areas of rotation have actually kind of changed and hopped and weakened and broadened out. So that is the really the strongest area of rotation, I think, across the entire area right now.
Yeah, and that camera, Chris, is looking at that storm.
And it's looking in that direction. So we're seeing, the figurative light at the end of the tunnel. We're seeing the sun on the other side of the storms right now, and that is a sign that there is a back edge to this. The winds are turning at the surface with the storm, so we're not getting that obvious wind shear anymore. So conditions are kind of lining up to put an end to this, at least here in this part of Illinois. These storms are going offshore, and they will reemerge in Michigan.
We should get a nice looking sunset too.
Well, we can go high up in that Willis Tower camera and see what we're looking at as well. Now the storms are nearing downtown. Take a look at Rim 7 if we can, and we can pull it up full. Heavy rain coming through. You can see the lights kind of illuminating the left side of your screen, and that's the area where any rotation would be. So it's a kind of obscured, interesting viewpoint here, but we're not seeing any tornadoes. We're not seeing anything tornadic visually. And so...
It's tough to see it from here, I think, regardless.
Yeah. And so things should improve here pretty quickly once this gets offshore. I mean, we're like less than 2 miles away. All right, so it's been a long evening here in the Chicago metro area. Our coverage will continue here on the Weather Channel with meteorologist Todd Borick and Carl Parker standing by in the lab monitoring the serious threat for tornadoes, not just in the Chicago metro area, but also monitoring areas in northern Indiana, guys, and even western Michigan.
Yeah, there is an ongoing tornado watch, as you mentioned, in northern Indiana, and conditions certainly favorable for tornadoes in those areas. Once again, to recap here in the Chicago metro area, there is an ongoing tornado warning in effect. That for Cook County going until 7:45. So we're watching a couple of areas of rotation now in the Chicago metro area. One of those is now right along the lakeshore. There's a little bit of a spin that's showing up right in there. And then you could make the case that we've got another area right in there. Now I want to show you a camera on REM 3 looking at downtown Chicago. And so you can see right in here, and maybe we could pull that out full. This is the back edge of these storms, and the back edge is where these spins have been located. Look at that. There's a shot from the Willis Tower in downtown Chicago at an elevation of 1,353 feet. And so you're looking at that back edge right there. This might be a spectacular view in short order as those storms begin to work out over the lake, and we'll take a look at that. Also, another downtown camera, we're starting to see some clearing there on the north side. So this line of storms is oriented from southwest to northeast, and the back edge now coming through downtown Chicago. Once that clearing comes through, you are in the clear. You're going to be in good shape after that point. And so that cell that we were watching moments ago, right in there, now has just moved offshore, and things are going to be improving there. Let's go back to that Willis camera tower shot, and you can see that back edge of these storms here. Really amazing shot here from the Willis Tower. And, you can even see just a little bit of uplift. If you look on the left side of the screen there, you can see a little bit of vertical motion going up into that cloud. You can see that very well-defined cloud bottom there as it's moving offshore. Big rain shaft that is also starting to push offshore. So, these are very strong storms that continue to move through the Chicago metro area. And, there is still rotation showing up on this one that's on the south side right in there. In fact, I'm going to go back to the velocity data, and you see there's more rotation in that area right there. That area is very interesting. And let's go back to that Willis tower camera, and let's pull that out full if we could, please, because there is a really interesting feature that's showing up. If you look on the far left there, you see that looks like a little bit of an appendage showing up right there, and that's not surprising because that's the area where we're seeing the strongest rotation ongoing right now. So it looks like we've got at least a little bit of a funnel cloud showing up there just out over the lake from that storm. Remarkable storm here, Todd, as it's coming through Chicago right now.
And just take a look at that picture. Look at how amazing this shot is too. You have that lowering that you're talking about right almost in the middle there. You can see a rainbow that's coming out there just to the left of the rain shaft you're talking about. But as everything we're looking, that is the one cell that has all the lightning in it as well. All the lightning is actually offshore at this time. The big question is whether or not that circulation that's near South Lawndale, if that's the one that you're talking about, whether or not that holds through as well. I want to show you a little bigger perspective here, and you can, if we can just keep that up. We have that ongoing tornado watch that does continue. Storm Prediction Center may issue a downstream watch at some point if we're looking into your Indiana and even southwest Michigan. Actually, if we go over to, right there's Carl's Max there, that is going to be something we're going to have to watch because they may end up having to issue, just for the simple fact that we've had a whole mess of circulation. We already had confirmed tornado in northern Illinois, and that might be something as well. One update here, they did just, and you just saw it out there as well, the National Weather Service has canceled that tornado warning right now for Cook County, Illinois. They don't quite see the circulation, but it's interesting, Carl, as far as lightning strikes, there aren't any that are over Illinois anymore. All the activity is now over Lake Michigan.
Yeah, and guys, I don't know if we can put that Wills Tower camera shot in my telestrator, but we are definitely seeing a rotating storm now moving offshore. And so if you look on the left side there, you see there is a taller skyscraper that is about a third of the way from the right. And if you look just above that, I think that's the old Standard Oil building. You look just above that, you can see that lowering that is rotating broadly, and from time to time I've spotted some little funnel clouds within that as well. And so just a remarkable view here of these rotating storms as they are working offshore. Now the tornado warning has been allowed to expire here in Chicago, so things do appear to be improving. But again, I think we're going to have some really amazing views as these storms continue to work offshore. You see the rain shaft that is just ahead of us there and pulling away, and then you see off to the left, that's where the strongest rotation is showing up in the velocity data. Oftentimes when you get to a body of water, you get even a little more low-level wind shear, and so it's not surprising. So what we're looking at there is this area right in there. We're looking at that area of rotation. There is spin there. You can see where it's kind of brighter yellow, and there's darker color as well. That is where there's rotation, and that is what you were seeing on the left, say third of the screen in the upper left corner. That brighter area is the bottom of that storm that is now rotating. Now farther south, down here south of downtown, we're seeing a very broad, what we would call a shear line, and that's an area where you've got winds that are moving out of this direction and then moving out of this direction, and so that that's always an area of concern. So points south of Chicago and towards the lakeshore, I would just be on your toes in case anything changes very quickly, but we're not seeing a more concentrated area of rotation like we're seeing right there. And again, that is on the left-hand side of that tower cam view where you're seeing that lowering there. We're seeing some little appendages now and again, and I've definitely seen at least a couple of funnel clouds in that shot, Todd, as that spin's pulling away and now illuminated by the setting sun.
I was just going to say that it is almost as if the sun is trying to highlight where exactly you want to look.
Yeah.
One quick note coming out of the National Weather Service Chicago. Obviously, they're warning free at the moment, but still cannot completely rule out another spin up somewhere. So nothing seems imminent at the moment, like you've been talking about. But even as of right now, it does not look like they are going to be issuing any new warnings at the moment. But until that line completely pushes through downtown Chicago and extreme northern Illinois, we're not completely rain-free as of yet. If we could just jump over real quickly to max 46, I just want to go over some of the things that we have seen as of lately. So that is that cell that Carl was showing. And here are some of the storm reports we've seen so far. 20 large trees, large trees 20 inches in diameter down, and damage reported to homes west of Elgin and northeast of Campton Hills. That is location, time estimated, and also for LaGrange. This was the cell that they were talking about in Storm Center earlier. That's the one that had the debris ball, and we had a really clear, defined inflow notch, and that thing really was looking on very dangerous on our radar. Obviously, this is the one that was on, we believe was on the ground. Car windows reported blown out and damage to signs. Also, in Huntley, trees were down, damage reported in around the homes near Algonquin and Reed Roads, and also in Huntley, one roof blown off in Huntley as well. So as we look ahead, we still have that active tornado watch until 10 o'clock local time. Would not be surprised we see the edge of this here in the Chicago area being sliced off. But the one thing I want to note is that the Storm Prediction Center is also thinking about possibly issuing a downstream watch. It may be needed, so this is, at least for right now, what we call the mesoscale discussion. So they're just looking possibly that they may be issuing a watch maybe here in northern Indiana and far southwest Michigan, Carl, something that they'll keep an eye on. Obviously, with that cell that's going over Lake Michigan, if that thing's not going to be going away anytime soon, that might be a reason why they may have a tornado watch upstream.